All right, so that did work. So it says it's streaming live now. So, all right, this is the coding deep dive meeting. We pull up our agenda. No Bryce today. I think we had a few things we had deferred from last week. And we'll go through any questions people have. Yeah, it does seem to me that maybe the DevOps conversation, we had deferred it last week, Michelle, because you weren't able to be here for that call, for the conversation. And
okay, but Bryce isn't
now
here
Bryce
now?
isn't here, so we should probably defer it again.
All right.
There was nothing urgent with it, so.
Well, if we just list it, then we'll remember to move it to the next week, I think.
Right. And I just want to point out, we're not going to have a meeting on the 18th because that's Patriots Day. So our next one's going to be 4/25.
Wow. Okay.
And maybe we can make a decision about a midweek thing. But so the one thing is, we're at the end of the semester. We will all, on the Suffolk side, have a bit more time once the semester is over. So I don't see a reason to schedule an extra meeting right at the last 2 weeks of the semester. It's better to probably keep the ones that we can do without rearranging time, and then just know we'll be able to do more stuff once the semester is back on. All right, or the summer's kind of started, the Suffolk summer at least, which starts in April.
It is April.
The end of April. I'm just saying it's not generally considered to be the start of summer.
Oh, I see.
But it is for us.
Summer. I still have the heat on.
I know. Same here. Can I do this restart numbering inside Google? Yes, I can. All right. All right, let me share my screen. So the other thing that I was doing is I'm just trying to do some more triage. You have so many open issues that it becomes a bit hard to see which ones are actionable. So some of them are just closed, things that we hadn't closed when we changed or addressed it in a different part of a different repository. Some of them just aren't as relevant anymore. If I'm just making a choice about relevancy, I'm tagging it with potentially revisit. But my goal is to kind of shorten our list of issues from 101 to maybe I can get 20 of them closed this week or so, like I did with the assembly line repository. So yeah, I can show you. That's what I've been doing, just going through the assembly line Weaver open issues today. I guess I did get 12 of them closed. That's pretty good, 13 of them closed. I did a pull request for a very minor issue that's been lingering for a long time. Nothing urgent there, just periodic cleanup is the goal. But I'll probably open up some other small pull requests with minor things that can be fixed there, just in the name of cleaning up our backlog. And if you get put on a pull request, it's just because I was thinking that might be a good way to spread the load. Someone else can jump on a pull request that they see open. And if you see your name on one and you can't do it, that's okay. We'll probably follow up on them in a week or two. If they seem like they're ready to get merged, but they definitely aren't top priority for anybody. So that's just that quick update. So I'll put that on here. Any items people want to add to the agenda for today?
I think I've added my main one.
I want to show what I've done so far for the survey type of interviews, but I don't know if that falls into item 2 or not.
Oh yeah, I think it does. That was, I put that there as a carryover from last week. And I think it definitely does relate. Oops. Wait, why is continue previous numbering the only option? Okay. And I'm going to put this at the end because we're not going to get to it intentionally.
You can just put a postpone or whatever in the box if that helps.
It's already on the next week's agenda. But actually, I'm not going to do that because I think it's clearer if we keep the empty box, things we didn't do. But we don't necessarily even need the note, just we didn't do it. Why don't we spend like a little bit of time talking about the income module first, because I know that might require the deepest discussion. And Michelle, you've been asking about it on Teams already.
Yeah, I think I wasn't
save the
able
second.
to, yeah, wasn't able to clarify the question there, I think, to the extent that it needed. Okay, so
You want to
these-
maybe show your screen too, maybe demo what you're trying to get to work.
okay, let me pull that up.
I think I definitely understand what you're trying to do, and I think it just isn't possible without using something outside of the data structure. But let's look at it and see.
Okay. That might take me toolbox, because I have to make a new project for it. But do you want a demo of what it's supposed to look like, or just to look at the code of it?
What it looks like. So like if you could just
Okay.
describe the functionality you're trying to get to have.
Right. So the functionality that Caroline is looking for is having deductions so that there are like one, you're able to do custom deductions, right? So you can get add as many custom deductions as you want. And two, that you are able to have predefined deductions as well, and that you're able to have a page where that question appears in the form of, do you have union dues? And then if they say yes, then you show do a show if for how much are those dues. That's the behavior she wants, and we managed to make that behavior happen. Technically, it's possible, and I found it to be technically awkward, the solution to be technically awkward. So the question is there a solution that is less technically awkward, or is there or does this indicate need for a different data structure? Like which of those that would be less technically awkward in the interview itself? So I'm getting this ready for to show what I mean.
So I think one thing to keep in mind is that there may be things that can be done here that are, we definitely had this conversation early and it led us to this path. And I think that maybe it wasn't clear enough what our goal was. So maybe it wasn't clear. It's an early design choice that I feel like we probably shouldn't revisit now, but we might have to tell Caroline that behavior isn't possible for the MVP, or we do a different.
Well, it is
I would
possible.
really resist.
I mean, I did it, so it's possible.
Yeah. You said that it adds empty elements. That's not really the feature that you're looking for.
It's not empty elements. They're just zero value. So I will share now to show what is desired. So this is the desired behavior. This is the code that we have implemented for it.
So did you add a new exists attribute to all of these?
Yeah, it doesn't have to, but it's not in the module. It's just in here. It's just in the interview. And they can either have like we can change it to something else. It doesn't have to be dot exists. We were trying to make it dot exist because we were seeing if we could do it in some kind of a loop, but that I couldn't figure out how to make that happen for that and for custom values. So there's this, and then there's other. And if you say other, then you get this, right?
So is this other okay?
Yes, this
Trying to figure
other
out how
is
the two
okay.
parts are. Okay. So this part is fine. The
So
only question
I'm
is,
just saying that it works. It's just very messy. So do we want to add like something to the data structure that adds an other attribute to in values, or something like that, or adds an other in values attribute to the job, where you can put the custom items as opposed to trying to have them both in the out or in values.
well, it seems like it would be too specific a feature to put into the class. Like when you're storing the same kind of value in two different lists, yeah, it has to be really justified. So nothing in the data structure specifies what these keys are in the dictionary right now, right? Health insurance, life insurance, those are all just chosen by the author of the interview.
Yep.
So then to put another data structure, which also stores values that are chosen by the user rather than by the author, feels like a wrong design to me.
Okay, is there a better way to implement this than what we've done here? I mean, this could be a loop of some kind, I'm sure.
I think I said like two different options on the chat. So one would be
as long as they're on the same screen, right? These are the same screen options.
So one would be to make it not be the same screen, which I think would be the best use of the data structure. The other would be to have a secondary data structure that you then build this list from. So you would have something that wouldn't be part of your class, but it could be a way of implementing it that you would put in the YAML file, where you gather a dot exists and a value. It's essentially the exact same way that it's done in the SSI interview, except there, instead of just gathering the name of the key, you'd also be gathering I guess it was the type actually, instead of the name of the key, because it was a list rather than a dictionary. You would have the value on the same screen. Or, well, now that I'm trying to think about it, is there, the idea here is like,
well, you could have intermediate variable for other values, right? It'd be intermediate variables regardless.
yes, it would be in some way, it would be intermediate values. Yes, I mean, it would just be to get it started. So you would want to let the edit interface be separate in that circumstance, right? Like the edit wouldn't take you back to the same screen where you had this checkbox and then all the values listed. It would be an edit for that specific item, which would edit the actual value that's stored in the real data structure, not the kind of what you might call that. I don't know, what would you call that? I mean, the thing is, like, is it likely? Well, it depends a lot on how you want to get this information, I guess. If you think people have more information to give about each in and out value, then this is kind of like a priming step for the actual in and out values. You might have some follow-up questions that are too detailed to put on one screen, right? But if you if you think it's actually all we really need is the amount for all of those deductions, then that is fine. Tell me what you mean when you were saying you were having trouble putting it into a loop.
Well, I mean, without an intermediate variable, right? We can't ask a question that has a show if we're not going to get the value. Like the gathering happens like this, right? Get the value for every item. So if you can't get the value because there's a show if, it'll never leave that screen.
You could just put the if statement here.
Yeah,
Oh, you
you
meant by the
can,
loop.
but then when you're gathering other items, you can't get dot exists because you can only get the name first. You're not asking what's your custom value and does it exist?
Right, but you can have some of that logic inside your block there. First of all, I
It's
think
just not
there is an issue
repeatable.
with this.
It's not
This is a
repeatable
good
for
place to
both.
start it, but you definitely don't want all this code in the real financial statement. So that's
Yeah.
something to think about too. It's a good place to experiment with it, but you're going to want to put this into the module at some point.
Yeah, but in that case, I'm going to do an intermediate variable for the other values. That's, I think, the cleanest plan.
How did you arrive there? I don't think we did say anything like that just now, but it might be that we just aren't having the same conversation.
Maybe. So it just seems to me the cleanest because then you can just ask for health insurance exists, right? And you'll fill out all the required ones and they'll either have a value or they won't. And, they'll exist or they won't. You probably won't ask for health insurance exists. You'll probably just say something like, if not, X has health insurance or whatever, variable you want to make for it, so that these don't get defined unless they have a value. You probably just do X has health insurance, right? And then none of these other ones would be defined. Then for the other values, you'd loop through some kind of list getting the other values, which would give you more freedom about how you present, the other values questions. And then that would be an intermediate variable. You just say, X dot some other list of other things, right?
I guess I'm wondering why. Yeah, that's a really good point. Can we see the question where you ask for all these values, where someone can put in in the code, that is? Or I suppose we can just go back and then look at the source of the screen. That would be a fine way to do it. And we can see both at once. Yeah, just hit the undo button a couple times. You're able to.
It's which screen? You mean the standard?
The screen where you entered the standard in and out values, basically. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about.
This one?
Yeah. So why is this screen, is it adding those keys somehow? Is that the bug that maybe got just fixed by Jonathan?
No, I don't think it's the same bug, but I think if we do out values health insurance dot exists, then it will create that value. So if you have a different value here, I'm not sure if a show if will protect this from getting created. I'm not completely sure. The other bug,
why is this a generic object question? Well, I guess doesn't seem like it is. It seems like this is more of an example question.
This is for every itemized job. It's not an example question. Each job,
every itemized job has the same deductions and
Caroline wants to ask about the same deductions for each itemized job and then allow people to add their own custom deductions. Right. So these are standard ones that she wants to make sure they put in, whether they have, do they have it? And like, for example, this
is not part of the class or of the built-in kind of question library version of it. It's just for her form. I get it now. Okay. But it is generic because it's for every job someone has.
Yep, and it can be just an example.
Could use I instead, but that's okay. Instead of X, sometimes it's clearer that it's not applying to everything of the class. But that's okay. Depending on maybe there's multiple people you're talking about getting their information from, maybe that's the right choice. If you just change those to not invoke the key, I think you're right that it shouldn't create the item in the dictionary, and then you don't have to worry
just
about
not what we were doing. Okay, so it probably
that's probably the best fix, actually.
Right, but it if this is we still have to do this regardless of whether the exists is a key or is a instantiates it or not, because when we do
Fine.
dot gather, we have to get the value. So
But
we're
it won't
always
be
going to
in
have to
the-
get the value for everything.
But well, can you scroll down a little bit again?
Oh, it might not be.
There would be no
Right.
x dot in values or out values I. That would be gone. You'd scroll too
Oh,
much.
interesting. Yeah,
wouldn't be
sorry. No,
there
no,
in the-
I'm looking at,
Yeah, this wouldn't exist for that item.
Yeah.
Because that item wouldn't be in the dictionary.
that's an in value. The in values get asked differently now. That needs to
Okay.
be deleted.
So this wouldn't be there, so there would be no complete thing to gather for that item. You just would use, if you go back,
Okay,
maybe it's easier to go here to this tab.
sure, just a sec.
It shouldn't create a dictionary item if there's no question that requires it to be defined.
So that might be the bug then. Maybe that's part of the bug. We ran into it in a different way, but that might be part of the bug that Jonathan supposedly just fixed, because we were having a problem with that.
But that was because of the depends on modifier, probably, right? That's what it seemed like was the case, at least.
Yeah, but that was for full-time and part-time. It didn't have anything to do with out values or in values.
So if you just make this question, you can keep it with X, but it'd be X dot has.
Yeah,
something
whatever.
else
It'll just be some arbitrary thing for sure.
instead of it being.
I
part
can
of the-
try it. I can try it. I think we tried it and it wasn't working, but maybe if we've updated to whatever's new, you can let me try it without the update and see if it works just that
Yeah, let's
way.
give that a quick try if you can.
Do we want to do this right now, or do we want to also make sure to cover Lily's? I just want to check on that.
It might be good just to close this because it's been a little of a blocker, right? And I think we
Yeah.
can't really say if it's solved. Otherwise, we're just gonna there's other discussionable aspects of this if it doesn't solve it. I mean, you can just make it X dot A, A what
I feel like I have ways to deal with this now, but if you feel it should have more discussion, then that is also fine.
In the code block where you said you call dot value, you can just do an if condition, right?
Yeah.
If it exists, call it, otherwise set the value to 0, then you're done, right?
Well, we already did the setting.
Michelle,
value
you
to
could just
0
comment
thing.
out the last of these two for now, for the
That's
test.
true.
But getting 3 is a good idea. Yeah, Lily, that's right. You could use the show F logic inside the complete block. That would be another way to fix this. But I think here,
But that would require separate screens.
no,
I mean,
it wouldn't.
Why?
It would not require another screen.
No, because you can't do exists in the you can't check for exists in here. Hang on, where is okay? You can't
just-
check for exists in here, because that means that when you get the custom values, it also wants to know whether they exist, and you're not asking that question, so it stops. It gets stuck.
You would need some other logic that's represented here too to handle the other situation. But it doesn't mean you can't put it in that block. It just
Sure.
would require
I mean,
some
I don't
other
know.
way to say what things are predefined and which ones are not. But let's
Okay.
try it now with that change and see if it adds those keys that are not directly mentioned. And I guess we want to take out, we want to make sure that there's no 0 in there, I guess, right?
There isn't any 0 in there. What do you mean?
I'm trying to think about how we're going to see if this worked. It shouldn't run your block anymore. I'm not actually sure how the
What
different
block?
blocks that you had written were triggered. The one that checks for exists and then sets everything to 0.
I mean, maybe I misspelled it.
You did in your comment is the only place I saw it misspelled. Ah, there we go.
I mean, that was, yeah.
Why are we, okay. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to trigger the question.
I wonder if I can just move on. Okay.
So let's check health insurance and not life insurance, I guess.
Oh, Jesus. My comments, I love it. Okay. Sorry. Nope, won't move on.
We'll see why it's not letting us move on.
Yeah, this was the original problem.
Well, so why does it need life insurance value?
That's because it thinks it exists.
Can we see, is there anything that defined life insurance?
Nope. Nothing
It's
else.
just, it's mentioned in the show if.
Yep.
Can we double check?
So life insurance. There we go. Went all
We
the way
see it
around.
again. The one that actually matched that wasn't commented out. Okay, scroll up a little bit. So has life insurance is a question, and then the life insurance value is behind a show if, so it shouldn't be defined. So we haven't updated our server. I'm a bit reluctant to do it because of the bug we saw that I thought was a version pinning problem, but maybe.
Okay, but it doesn't
worth
need to
the
be
pain.
immediate. You know, we can wait a little while. We have other solutions, but this would be ideal. This was the original problem that Carolyn.
It seems really
Design
similar
was
to the
running.
one that you had with part-time and full-time being defined when they weren't supposed to be.
Exactly.
I'm going to do a server update. It's not a problem. It's something I generally like to be on the latest simple release on our dev server.
Okay.
And we know this fixes a different bug you had. So.
Proof that I'm not insane.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no.
This
it's
is
not even-
very, very complicated.
This is what we were
Very
like, running around being like, it's not, how's this not working?
The only thing I would say is I think it's good to have these discussions because it's real easy to quickly jump to the solution. But until we really can describe the problem, the solution may be really far off from, trying to solve a specific aspect of it might be really far off from the right fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, here you
So I
have
brought it up. I just felt that the solution we had come up with was not one that I liked. Lily, what'd you say?
I'm just saying that the value, health insurance value, you have a show if. When you have that one, then you will need to handle when it doesn't have, when it's not true. You need to default to its value.
Well, that's what we did, right? Like here, when it's not true, we defaulted to 0.
Yeah,
and I
That
think,
was the solution we came up with, but
I think what
not-
we'd originally thought of is just leaving those blank like you had on the previous screen, right? Make them not required.
I talked to Caroline about that as well.
Yeah.
Like that is she said it doesn't have to be that, and MVP doesn't have to be this, is what she said, but that is ultimately what she would find ideal. That's all.
It's an interesting mix though, right? Because this is saying
Yes.
it's something we have to have on the screen that's predefined, but we don't actually want it to always be set to anything.
Yeah. Yep.
Feels like it will be easier for someone to
And
fill it
then
in
we
if they
have
don't have to
other
check multiple
things that are not
boxes.
at all defined. Yeah, it's a, yeah. I mean, if you want, we can get Caroline in on this. She might have time, but I can't represent her position, because I'm not the one making it. I'm just telling you what my conversation, I gave her a few different options that would work without this problem. And she said, we can do those for MVP, but that ideally this is what she wanted. So that's just, I'm just passing that on.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Things don't work out the way we
I don't
want.
know.
Yeah.
Right. This is probably
But that's why, like,
a bug in DocAssemble or a behavior in DocAssemble. It seems very related, even if it's not fixed by this update.
yeah.
I'm applying now, it seems very related to the one that Jonathan just fixed. So
Okay. Do you want me to wait until you've updated and then refresh, or do you want?
it's just finished the update now. So you should be
Okay.
able to refresh.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I think it's when I see the updates finished, it should work right away for you.
So what's the reason of not making it required field?
Well, because not everyone has the same items they see on their pay stub. I think that's the reason.
Right. So we can make it not required,
Yeah.
right?
That would definitely fix it if we just made it not be required.
Yep.
Did you finish? Did you refresh?
Yeah, I tried.
Try restarting from the beginning.
Okay.
Don't always trust that. And especially because the server reset takes a couple seconds sometimes, even though it told me it finished updating.
Yeah, that's actually my question. Sometimes when I make code changes, if I'm in the middle of the interview, it doesn't reflect. I have to restart it.
Mm-hmm.
How
do you know when it needs
yeah,
that?
how do I know when it will reflect, when it will not?
Well, sometimes it's just a matter of waiting, that because the server tries to keep itself available the whole time. So you're not guaranteed to have a background thing finished running. It just tries to let you tell you when it's finished in the background. Sometimes it's wrong. I think that's at least some of the time.
Yeah.
Can we see
stuck.
Can we see the source again and see?
We can also see the variable values, but
well, it's going to be a step behind, won't it?
That's true. It will. But it might have defined it. Actually, it might have the way that we
because we
looked it up before, it might have defined it because this question had to exist, type of thing.
Well, we could check and just see if there's a life insurance entry, I guess. Is that what you mean?
Yep. That's how we found the other bug.
You got to use Firefox or that JSON.
Yeah, I hear you. I just run into problems on Firefox too. So it exists.
All right, so it's there. What are these other ones that we didn't mention anywhere? Medicare, Social Security.
Well, that's really interesting.
So I don't think that's the same thing we're looking at. That's causing
because no. I think it created them because it's in the comments. It's still there. It's just in the comments.
No, it doesn't know about
you need to use retirement. Those were required. Sorry. Those were other required ones.
It's a different screen.
That would be hilarious. I'm glad the things don't.
Oh, it's these ones, these deductions. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, we're still talking about adding things to deductions?
Yes.
These are the required
ones
deductions.
that are required ones. These are the ones that are not required. And then there are custom ones, right? So
that is a lot of flexibility.
It's a lot of flexibility.
All right. Well, it seems like we just have described something that shouldn't happen, which is like if you have something behind a show if, it shouldn't be creating a dictionary key for you. So
I can bring it up.
Jonathan just fixed it. So let's see if he can fix it for this.
Yeah. Okay. I'll bring it up with Jonathan. Let me just write that down real quick. But we can go on if you want to go on to something else.
Okay. I did have a really quick one. Oh, actually, where did Chris ask this question? I just realized all she really needs to do is customize the label for one screen. Where was that?
Are you looking on my screen?
I'm not looking on your screen.
Okay.
I'm looking through my Teams.
Okay. The mailing address?
Yeah. Okay. So Yes, it was for the mailing address. So here's Chris's question. Can we add PO box to the mailing address field label? And I'm just going to explain. Yes, you can customize individual label for a field. User 0 dot address dot address or mailing address, I guess. I think that's the right variable name. Let's look at the code here. Sorry, this is actually not really something that needs discussion. I was trying to think about, oh, do we have to change anything about the address input to handle?
I mean, do we want to just, I think
PO
she's
boxes.
suggesting just changing the label, right?
Changing the label doesn't require any code changes, yeah. But
Which
it's,
I think she's asking whether we want to change the label as a matter of course, so that it is presented that way to all users.
and I think the answer is no, because of that label, that particular field being used for, I don't think that's what she's asking actually.
Okay.
I think she doesn't know that she could customize on an individual basis, but
Okay.
so that's, but you're right, it is phrased as though, are you interested in this? It could mean, do we all want to use this?
Okay.
The problem is that does not work with the way that geocoding works, right? You can't have PO box ...
Yeah, you might want to tell her that geocoding won't work well with that.
That's probably something we do have to think about generally for that reason.
Yeah, because some mailing addresses are PO boxes.
Address label is the right thing. I guess maybe for specifically mailing address, we could change that way that that field works somehow, because it's the place where someone would be most likely to put a PO box of their physical address.
Okay.
I mean, it
And
does.
add an issue.
Maybe we do want to add an issue.
You can tell her to add an issue. I mean, she said, do you want me to post it anywhere? And that can be fun for someone.
I could. You're right. I don't know that she has a GitHub account, so it may not be as fun as it seems.
Okay, never mind then.
I mean, I think the answer is like, we really should go back to our general thought of, we need addresses that represent physical places, and we need addresses to be able to represent things that aren't physical places, like I'm homeless.
Yeah.
You know, we already have that as an issue, so
Yeah.
I can find that. Let me see what issue that is. That's the best way. I'm going to click on one and then change the number, I guess. There it is. Nope, that wasn't the right one. All right, maybe homeless is the right keyword to use. Yeah. this issue that's been open since 2020.
And might want to put the geocoding. Well, I can reply later with geocoding information of the why it's a problem.
Okay, that's the general thing, I think, to record there. But I think the PO box is a wrinkle on 127. That's not written there.
Yeah.
No, this is actually, Lily, you've really already raised this question here. So maybe it's a duplicate. But I'm going to open it as a new issue just in case, because we haven't worked on this one for quite a long time.
And there, I think you said that
We thought
you
it could.
just treat it like a standard address, but it would just allow them to put the PO box in. Which
What I have found though is when I tried to geocode and it had PO box in the address field, it did not know how to figure out where that was in the world.
Yeah.
It like
I'm
appended a
just
weird
saying,
country
yeah.
label, for example. It did weird things to the address.
Yeah,
often.
I'm just saying that the other issue has a different way of approaching that, had a different thought expressed. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so Lily, let's look at I think we covered this pretty well, right? Like I think the action item here is
Yeah, if you want, I can type it. Oh, sure. You're already in. Okay.
maybe Jonathan will tell us, no, if you mention it anywhere on the screen, it creates the object for you, even if it's behind a show if, and that would
I'm
be
emotionally
annoying.
prepared.
But,
Yes,
okay.
I'm emotionally prepared for that outcome.
All right. Okay. And then the only thing I would say is you could use the hook on gather method. Have you used that before?
Hook on gather. No, I haven't.
Or you could use validation code on that screen
I
to delete those
tried.
extra entries.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll make those as comments. I don't know what hook on gather is, but I'll look it up. And
Does seem like if you're creating it without having it be an attribute of the thing, there's no reason why it should be trying to gather something that you did. That's the way other show if logic works.
well, we certainly have our opinions. That's for sure.
We do certainly have
Yeah.
our opinion. All right, Lily, so let's use, I don't think there's anything else that's a really quick discussion that we need to talk about today. So let's look at where Lily went with the survey review in the last half hour.
All right. Can I share my screen? I added the two fields here one is to allow you to say, I don't have a template to upload. The other one will specify, okay, if you don't have it right now, it says if you don't have it, we can only do no. If you do yes, you're going to get an error. And this is explaining. I mean, the text you can change later, but basically that's the idea. So I can I'm going to show a few scenarios. The first one is I don't have a template. I don't need to generate a template for my interview. And this will just do the minimum, whatever question that's needed. But mainly allows you to add your fields to build your question screens. This is using the existing screen. I just conditioned the text for the title and this one. So you start with a blank one, and you can add field. I'm just going to do really minimum. So you can keep adding. Then you continually get your screens. This screen looks like I have to have it, otherwise I get. Some of the screens I skipped. I just set some default values, but
Is that just for the demo right now, so you can test stuff?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if this screen is necessary, but somehow I have to have it right now.
Yeah, I think
Not
we
sure.
do want to keep that. It's like the main customization point people can do for their forms, for the style of the output for this. Okay, great.
So we get
That
a
seems to have worked.
generated one.
What does the download screen look like now, or the replacement of the download screen? What is?
I can actually, we can run it and see what it looks like.
I'm okay with just jumping to the question. Oh, but you're right. We could run it because it's not doesn't need a download file anymore.
Right. I think I had some questions about when you run it from the assembly line side, because it still brings up certain questions that I think may not be related. So that's my own, so that's fine. It's my own screen. I do it. Like address, why do I need to do address?
As the zip code, I think.
That's probably from the stats, the interview stats.
Yeah, interview stats. It defaults to asking for the zip code there. We really should probably change that so the
But then
default doesn't do
it's
that.
asking name. That's really unrelated, right?
Let's see. Can we see why it's asking it? I think it might still be because the screen for zip code asked for. Let's go down. This will tell us how it's asking for the name, but not why. I think it's because we named the interview with the person's name, maybe.
Mhm.
Thank you. I think the thank you screen.
Oh, maybe it's the user. Thank you, user. Okay. All right. That's my fault. I should take it out. All right.
No problem.
We can just fill it in and carry on. I think.
Well, because if you got a survey or feedback.
No, I just mean you can fix it in the future. We can just keep going for now.
Yeah. So
There's a weird spurious.
what is
break.
this one?
horizontal ruler. Something.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Where's that coming from? It's HR.
Yeah.
Can we see the HTML source? Yeah, there we go. PA page header got added in there
Page
twice
header?
somehow.
But that's not even a page header. So
I might have to do with the problem that's the Google Analytics error that's in there. Might be messing up the HTML somehow.
interesting.
I don't know. That's why. But
Hmm.
so you have two DA main question blocks in this somehow. That's very interesting.
And why I didn't even expect to see this screen.
Oh no, never mind. It's not as
This
furry as
doesn't.
one. It's
No,
just
this
the
is the
style of
page
the
header.
page. There, look, see, there's just this is the
Yeah,
title.
no, but there was on a previous page, there was one that was halfway across the bottom. It was
Oh,
really
okay.
weird.
This one is normal, but okay, let's see if we can find that one.
Or maybe it's just when you opened
It
up the
does look
inspector, it
weird.
disappeared. So make this bigger, make this wider, could you? Because it might be different CSS for when it's even wider, as wide as you can. Without, I don't know.
I think it just
It's
looks
gone right
weird
now.
when it's a 2-line heading and you just have yes, no buttons. I think that's all.
No, there was something we can see on the recording afterwards. I'll show you. But like there was something weird under the no button.
But why do we even need this screen?
Because you asked for the users, plural.
Oh, okay, then never
It's,
mind.
yeah, it's from the question that you had.
Okay, how about I just take it out right now?
Sure.
Let's go back.
So in the Weaver, you could have said that there was no,
Let's just
there wasn't a,
see what it looks like.
yeah, but there was only one user. You could have said that there.
Huh? It just
When you
skipped.
ran the Weaver, what's that?
It just skipped all the way to the end. It didn't start from beginning. Why is
When you
that?
did save and run, I've seen that many times in the playground recently. It's really cool.
Save and run.
Sometimes doing regular run works when save and run doesn't. Okay. Yeah, that's
Regular
exactly
run.
that. We have an open issue for that, and I
Okay.
don't know why it does that.
This time it's regular run. Okay, good. Good.
I think it's only in the playground that weirdness happens.
That's good.
And it might be something to do with the way we are handling session variables. This takes
Okay,
snapshot and
ta-da,
fast-forward.
it's done. That screen.
Great.
There's no
was because of
template to
the-
download.
That's
Sorry.
good. I think that's great. Can we go back to the Weaver
What's the
screens?
template look like though?
There isn't a template. She said no template.
I thought they were making a
Ran it.
template.
No.
Oh, it doesn't create a template. It just creates an
Does
interface.
not.
Got
It
it.
asks you if you want to create a template, right? That was one of the questions
Got
you
it,
could ask.
got it.
Right.
Have you worked on that branch at all or no? I mean, that means we need to create a template, a form, canonical form idea, which we want to do anyway.
So that's scenario one. Scenario two, now I'm going to run it with a template to load, but I don't want a template as an output.
Ah, okay. So there's no creating a template for you. That's not one of the things it does right now at all.
Not now.
Okay.
I said, to me, this is like a step.
Those two, I think, are the first priority, the things you're thinking now. Yeah. Wait, no, you have
It's a bit
generate a template
confusing.
file for your interview.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing because it says like, it's like I have a template. Why would I generate a new template?
Right.
Right,
I
that's
think the
that's a
words
bit
we can
confusing.
change, definitely, but the concept is
Okay.
either you have a template to load or no. Either you want a template as output or no. Because if I have a survey interview, I will say yes, I have a template to load, right? But I don't want to generate a template for my users, right? Does that make sense?
Well, I think that Michelle's right. It's a bit confusing to have that set of combinations of questions. I think it makes sense for you as a developer. But I think for the author of the interview using this tool, that'll be confusing. I wonder if we could think about what are the combinations and then make it a multiple choice list that someone selects their goal when they use the Weaver.
Okay, like a checkbox to say I have template, and it's
I don't
just
think checkboxes, I
something.
think radio buttons. So I think,
Okay, we can refine that later. Right now, I have bigger.
yeah, the behavior is I
Yep,
think,
for
the
sure.
more important part than the questions for now. You're right.
Yeah, because I actually have. Okay, so this time I said yes. I don't want to interview output, and I'm going to do a doc file, which is a simple one, and I'm fine. But later on, if I do a PDF, I'm getting into a problem.
I mean, I think there's just three possibilities, right? It's like start with an existing template. That's the existing thing we do. Create a survey without a template. Maybe create an interview without a template.
Okay.
And then build a new template from scratch. Those are the three things we want, right? Is there a fourth scenario from the different combination of choices that would make sense for people? So I guess.
I really have no insight into this.
Okay.
FYI, like I have no idea what people need. So
I can tell you what I've run into before with people, but it doesn't mean that I've thought of every scenario either. What was what did we choose here? You chose to upload a template? And
yes,
not create an output
template, and I have something went wrong. It was working before.
I mean, maybe your field is predefined in the assembly line, and so it doesn't need it.
That's true. It's possible, but it also told us there were no predefined fields.
Oh.
Why does this one come out?
Well, let's see what happens if we keep going. Obviously, it's a little weird that it's not asking us.
Because it didn't list the go back. It should list. I have one field there. It was listing here. Something happened to it. I mean, I guess. Finish it. So that's fine. In the end, it's just a thank you screen. There's no download.
Okay, great.
Now
Well, that's interesting. So this is just a way to let someone upload a list of fields they want to use, basically. The template is only a container for the field names.
right. Well, no.
But it's a different scenario than
It's a Docker file. Well, actually, I am thinking, I mean, the issue log itself, we're saying, well, maybe we can allow people to upload like an Excel file or something like that. But I think that's actually more complicated, because then we will need a label, we need the field name, we need the field type. I think that's more confusing. Rather, we would just, if they have a regular docx template or PDF template, they can upload it. Otherwise, just use I don't have a template and just pick up the fields from our screen. That would be much more straightforward. I mean, that's my thinking.
Well, I think this is something. Here's what, let me just share what I was. Sorry, this is great. I think this is really.
Yeah, but hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
Now I'm going to do a PDF file, and I'm running into a problem, and I don't quite understand what's the reason for it. Basically, it's the built-in field used that I'm getting into trouble. Something happened.
This is the same issue, huh? Try doing the run button instead of the save and run button again. Run the blue button.
She did. Yeah, that was based on the run button.
I don't really know why that's seems to happen.
So
So we're not seeing any fields here.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this could be related to some of the changes that you made, I guess, too. So it's hard to
Well,
pin that down.
basically, let me ask you the question.
Okay.
The question is that on the review screen, review your fields. There is a plus. I think it's plus. Right. It's right here. I added this one, this line, because if you are building from the scratch, it would be helpful to see what field type you choose, right? So I mean, that's my thought. So I added to it. But now when I run the PDF file, when it gets to this screen, it complains that built-in field used, that field type is not defined. Well, I'm just thinking my PDF doesn't need, if I'm a survey type of, I'm doing a survey type of interview, I don't need a built-in fields, right? Like sign, signature.
So you might make two
think
separate
you might.
questions that depend on the circumstances.
I
So
think some of the
Make two
questions might
different
come
tables.
from our library, especially if we expand it. You might have,
but
for a survey, like having a question bank that's what like SurveyMonkey does, for example.
But you could do an if defined, right?
so do we do a separate table for the survey type of interview?
You can also
No,
do
I think
code
that
in
field
there.
type is relied on in a couple of places. So I would just try to figure out where
Right,
do
I
you define
tried,
built-in
and
fields used.
and it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And I mean, my basic question is this: is it necessary to put it here? Because when this screen is displayed, we actually conditioned the text that is always check. Okay, if you have something in it, we're not going to. We show a text that says we're not displaying those fields because we are handling it somewhere else. If that's the case, why do we even need to add it to this screen? That's my basic question.
Is this the screen, is this table used to let someone rearrange the screen order? That's what I think it does. That's why it lists both groups of fields.
Oh, here. See here, if you have this one, it says, oh, these fields are not listed. This is not listed.
No, I don't think so, because that's not a table that it's referencing. What you were showing us was the table block.
It is related to this one. It's right here.
I think it's the review
Sure. Okay.
screen that lets you rearrange the field order, I think.
Okay, so let's look at the code. Here I added this. Okay, we can change the field name later. For now, let's just take it. This one says, I want the output. So this is like a regular interview. Okay, we go through those. But if it's survey type, I say, okay, I'm not good. This one, I'm just setting it to, I'm just setting all fields to fields, so I can skip that one. And this one, I mean, a lot of these are related to like the templated file name in some way. So I just skip them and I set up, actually here I have a code block that set a few things, default values for it.
Oh, see, so all fields equals fields. Wonder if that's where it's happening.
That one actually works. I mean, before when I tried, it worked for no template update worked for doc X template to update to upload, but it doesn't work for PDF. And that's where I was tracing why.
I think that what's happening is wherever like all fields is defined right now, it must do something that makes sure that that field type is set for the built-in fields, and it's not happening in the new block that you just created.
Oh, maybe that's what I needed to add a condition. Maybe that's right. Okay.
But if that condition is true, you'll still have the same problem.
If not true,
So you do have to set it. Yeah, but even if that evaluates to true, you'll still have the same problem. Right?
I would avoid adding logic that doesn't set the field type. Just figure out where field type is defined, where built-in fields used is defined. I bet there's like 2 paths for it to be defined right now, and one of them is leaving it empty. You'll probably have to run a specific code block to make sure it's defined the right way.
It is calling a function. All right, now it's working. Okay, so that was the problem. Okay, now you will see where. Okay, so here definitely this should not come up, but it came up. And here's my problem. I got stuck here. So it says field type cannot be looked up. So it's
So wherever that, there must be 2 different ways to get
here.
that built-in fields type defined, and one of them must not be in defining the field type attribute. Can we see where built-in fields used is defined? There's the, see? Go back up. There, it's defined. Well, that's not enough, I guess. It's an empty list there. Look for built-in fields used equals, maybe.
No, actually, I went back to an old file I created last year, where it says, okay, we're using this function. This function is moves fields from that variable to that variable if the user indicated they are going to be treated as a people list. But in our case, that's so it comes from here. It comes from that function. So when here I say, okay, what's that function? And this is a function, but I cannot figure out how I can.
Is this only for the scenario where you want to upload a file to create
Only in a PDF file.
the list of fields? And it's only for a PDF?
Yeah, I even tried to add my condition here.
Let's just take out that functionality for now, because I think that's interesting. That I think we talked about wanting different ways for people to be able to upload a list of fields, right? Like we said, letting someone upload a plain text file or uploading a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, but I think that's more complicated.
But for someone to have a full template and not want to generate the template at the end, they could just do it the regular way and just delete the download question part at the end. I'm not sure why it would require a lot of changes, actually, because all we're really saying is don't show the download screen. Show a different screen instead of the download screen.
No, there are also other screens that if they are unrelated, we don't want to include them, right?
I don't know. If it's someone uploading a file that's a full template rather than just a list of fields.
So basically here, for this part, I added that condition, like process people. These definitely, I mean, to me, they are unrelated. That's why I want to skip them. So after that, these are working for everybody. This is for everybody. And here, I add a condition. You see, only for regular interview. For regular interview, you need this, right? Same thing,
I see. Yeah, I guess the signature field is one here.
right?
Well, can we just try? Click this little thing and see where built-in fields used is defined. Click that little list icon in the top right where my arrow is. And just search for built-in fields used. And let's open it up. And so it says defined by the objects block. Cool. I think the process custom people, does that run right now in your code? Does something trigger that to run? That's one of the places.
I tried to put it to run it or not run it. It doesn't make difference. I still get the same. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going down. Where do you get the fields from the
It
document?
may have to happen in multiple places. So
I even tried to add some condition in
Did you ever
this
run this get all
block.
fields?
Yeah, I'm calling this one. But I even conditioned this to skip this too for that scenario. It didn't help. I mean, also earlier, I just, anyway, whatever I tried, it didn't work. And my question is why is this one here?
Well, see here, this is where it's used. It's part of the screen rearranging the order of your screen's code, which isn't like super important, but
Okay. Maybe I should add a condition here, right?
no, I think we still want built-in fields. So I don't think we should change that behavior. We might actually add new kinds of built-in fields that are more relevant to interviews, survey style interviews.
But to me, I even tried to set a built-in fields equal to blank list because I don't see any built-in fields that wouldn't be used, right? For this.
Well, addresses, for example, are built-in fields. I guess you could have a survey that doesn't use any built-in fields, but I could imagine some that do, and I could imagine adding to our list.
Okay.
one of the features to add in the future that I was going to suggest was to provide some kind of drop down of fields that we have built in for people to choose from.
I like that idea too. Yeah, that should be one of the options that comes with. If you say you don't want to start with an existing form, you should give someone a menu of built-in fields to use.
Then in that case, that would mean, okay, suppose we have a different built-in field for the service. In that case, we would need a different view screens, right? Because
It would basically pre-populate the fields list. And I think people wouldn't necessarily need to customize the labels for those fields either.
Okay, just for the sake of it, I'm going to delete this one and see what happens.
I mean, I think there's a different logic bug there, Lily, which is somewhere the way that questions were called in a specific order is being broken, because that worked without the template, blank template uplifting, and it shouldn't really have changed that behavior, what you'd added.
It worked with docx though.
Yeah, so I wonder if it has to do with the way that the field type is being set just for PDFs, and maybe it isn't as important for docx's.
Look, that's where it is. Now I'm getting through it.
But we do not want to remove that behavior of having it also let you use built-in fields. It could be that the new things we're talking about, like the survey bank kind of questions, only exist in the Weaver and they don't become part of the question library. So they might not be runtime questions. They might not really be built-in fields. I'm putting air quotes on that you can't see. They might be just like templatized questions we add that you always get to customize. But it does feel like it's a helpful concept, because otherwise, why use the Weaver if you're not going to start with something? We were assuming people would start with a template, but if they can start with our list of predefined fields, that's a value add that we're giving. I mean, there's still value to having it build all of the structure of the interview for you. That's not zero value. It's just, it feels like an important part of that is the standardized questions.
Yeah, I think, okay, so that's my, so I think that those are all good suggestions. Then basically I can ignore that error for now.
Well, if you wanted to put it somewhere on GitHub where we could try playing around with it, maybe we could find the exact line. And, you know, the Weaver code is so complicated now.
I know.
It's hard to trace some of the logic sometimes. So it might be easier if we're looking at it. It's probably hard to do together on this call. We might be able to find the there if we can see your code.
So I can create a PR, right?
You could do it as a PR. Maybe I would suggest maybe doing it as a draft PR for now, because it's just going to help us find that logic
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
I'm saying what I think it is. I could be wrong. It might not have anything to do with the but with certain code not running, but it seems like it because we didn't run into it before. So
I forgot one thing. Actually, I think it's not a new issue. How do you say it? I introduced it by ID line.
You know, we're not seeing your screen, right?
Oh, right. Okay, hold on, let me share it again. This line was not there. I added it because I think when people build it from scratch, this will help. If I remove this one, it will not have a problem. And we didn't have it. That's why we didn't have it.
That wasn't there before? Oh,
It wasn't.
Okay. Oh, then I think in that case, sorry. Michelle's first suggestion of just making it go inside it, show if defined, would fix that. Show if def. So inside line 1104, just put show if def. You'd have to use get attribute name. You wouldn't be able to use row item.
Oh, you mean like dot show?
No. I think it's going to be show if. But wait, why is that in a format string? I don't think you need to do that here for field type. Is there a reason? It's going to be a string already. Is there maybe a concern it wouldn't be a string? Does that look familiar?
I don't know. I just copied.
I don't actually know why that one is either.
Right.
There maybe was a reason. Maybe there's sometimes it's not a string. So I'm going to put it on the chat. Show if def. I really don't think you need to use the format string. It would just be row item dot get. What's it? Get ATR name.
Without the brackets either, Lily.
And it would be field.
Yeah. But this isn't going to work yet. You have to implement the code that Quentin is pasting in the chat right now.
I just don't remember if it's get attribute name with two underscores or what. I have to double check that.
I was trying to find that the other day and I could not find that function.
It's not a function. That's why it's a method of a.
Well, I couldn't find the method. I searched
object.
for get. I searched for a bunch of different stuff trying to find it, but the search did not find it.
Oh, it's just attribute name. That's what it is. There's no get.
Database.
No,
Was that maybe the problem that you ran into, Michelle?
it might have been. I
Just-
mean,
I always want it to be get
you
in
do
my-
need, so instead of get attribute name, just attribute name. No, like I tried a bunch of different, maybe I didn't hit on the right one, but I was trying to
Okay.
find this functionality. Yep.
Is that
I thought it was
And-
without an underscore. I tried with an underscore and without an underscore and lots of things, so.
Condition. Oops. What is that?
You change it to multiple choice checkboxes, so now you need to add a description. Like you
Did I
need to add
change it?
multiple, you did. You might have pressed tab or something, but
Could be.
I think you scrolled on top of it is what happened.
Could be. All right.
There we go.
hey, there we go. We got it.
Thank you.
All right, so it's just
Wonderful.
missing for those. Perfect. That does make sense that we wouldn't know the field type for it. Now that more I think about it, we were taking you down the wrong road. Sorry. I'm glad you remembered it and we could solve it together.
Yeah, great, great. That's something new. I didn't know the function. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Well,
I think that's good meeting. Productive. Solved 2 problems, or at least we identified something to ask. Jonathan.
Yeah, yeah.
We just solved one of them.
we moved problems forward.
Yes. All right.
Just another question. Quentin, do you have a real like a survey form somewhere? You said this topic has a bunch of them.
We don't
I
have a
just
bunch
want
of them. What we
some
had
real
was like
one
a data
create
collection
some
survey.
real data.
Well, we had this data collection project for the Suffolk DA's office. Then the DA got appointed the US attorney. So, and then a different political administration got to appoint the replacement who no longer wanted to continue our project. So I think we weren't able to share that code publicly. I remember, let me see.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some, I mean, is there any other way that I can get a real survey file? Because I don't know how to make it up. My idea is to generate some data so that then I can develop that function to save for the interview stats.
Well, think of it like a Google form, right? That's the kind of survey we're talking about. So if you just want some examples, we just did a Google form to get people to register for our conference coming up in a couple of weeks. That might be an example you could use. Just try to replicate that.
So you don't have any ready form that I can use?
Not one in DocAssemble.
No, just like a doc file.
A doc
I just-
file that's a survey?
Or feedback or anything. I just don't want to spend time develop questions, the real questions.
I think she's looking for a PDF or docx that is a survey that she can just put in and
Right, exactly.
use. Or if she has to make one herself, she's hoping not to make one herself.
Right. Because my next step is to develop that save function to save data to be used by interview stats.
Yeah, I would look at, if you want inspiration, maybe SurveyMonkey, which I just
I
put a
think
link.
she's not looking for inspiration. I think she's actually looking for a document or a PDF.
No, I don't have that. So
Okay,
failing that,
got
would
it.
inspiration be helpful? Or do you just, or no?
Or if you know some other, okay, so that's, if somewhere else I can go download a file, that'd be Oh, so
Yeah, here's one. I just looked for questionnaire example PDF, and I'm finding some that look pretty good for giving you ideas for what people write in a questionnaire.
okay.
I mean, it's really anything that could go in a DocAssemble interview. The difference is
Right.
we want to save the data. I think that part you already understand now that I think about it.
Right.
It's just,
Okay.
if you want something that looks realistic, one of these might be a good example. Or the other thing is like, this is the kind of thing people do in data science, like researchers would want to write surveys for stuff all the time. We don't want to replace. There's a lot of situations where you should just use something like SurveyMonkey, but there are people who do research or need to collect data where they need ownership of the full stack. So we just want to give people more options to do that while they're still using DocAssemble as their question engine. I mean, there are other alternatives. There probably are some good open source alternatives to DocAssemble for just doing surveys, but probably there's some reasons people want to use DocAssemble that that's what we're trying to solve for.
Well, you created that issue, right? I'm working on that issue, right? So I assume there's a need for it.
I think there is. And I think partly it was someone came to us for help, and for us to try to learn a new tool didn't make sense. And they couldn't use Google Forms and they couldn't use SurveyMonkey. And it wouldn't make sense for us to try to learn a totally new tool. It seemed like DocAssemble would work for it. But yeah, I mean, I'm recognizing that it's not something that's something only DocAssemble can do.
Right. This is just for the convenience. Whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we were allowed to share. I think we had to put that in a private repository. Not that it was really anything sensitive. It was just like quality control stuff. They wanted to know, like, oh, was this case closed, or how long did it take? What was the classification of the offense? There wasn't anything. And then we weren't actually collecting any of the data on our server. It was going to be on their server. But I think we chose not to share it, the repository.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is an open source. People can adapt to it for some other purpose as well. Right? So we don't want to restrict. We just say, okay, here's what you can use. But you decide on what you can use it for.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm done.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
See you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Okay.